Hello, guys. Picture this. You're 11 years old, and life feels heavy even though you're just a kid. You come home holding your report card. Almost perfect. Straight A's, except for one single B. In your mind, you think, it's fine, right? One grade can't ruin everything. But the moment your parents see it, the yelling begins. The punishments roll out. You're grounded, humiliated, and treated like you just destroyed the family legacy. Over one letter on a piece of paper. If you've ever felt the sting of being punished for something small, if you've ever been treated like perfection was the only option, then you already know the pain. And if you survived strict parents, hit that subscribe button right now. Tonight, we're exploring the disturbing world of the worst parents, the ones who cared more about control than love, the ones who scarred their kids forever.
She was a straight-A student, the kind of girl teachers loved to show off. At school, she smiled, answered every question, and felt like she had some worth. But at home, the air was heavy. Her parents believed anything less than perfection was shameful. They didn't see her as a child, they saw her as a reflection of themselves. The week of her best friend's birthday party, she felt light for the first time in months. They had planned games, cake, maybe even a sleepover. It was all she could think about. When report card day arrived, she tore the envelope open in the hallway, scanning desperately for bad news. Every grade was perfect, except math. There it was, a B. Her chest tightened. She rehearsed in her mind how to explain it. She studied every night. She tried her hardest. Maybe they would understand. But the second she handed over the paper, her father's eyes narrowed. Her mother's lip curled. The insults flew like knives. Lazy, stupid. Embarrassment. She wanted to defend herself, but each word dug deeper. You're grounded, her dad snapped. Forget that party. Her world collapsed in that moment. The one piece of joy she had, gone. She cried, begged, even promised she'd bring the grade up. It didn't matter. The decision was final. But her best friend's mom had seen enough over the years. She knew the girl lived in a house filled with constant yelling, endless chores, and bruises no one dared ask about. On the night of the party, she drove straight to their house. Without waiting for permission, she walked through the door and said firmly, "Sweetheart, pack a bag. You're coming with me." The parents rose from the couch, furious. She's grounded. But the woman didn't flinch. She looked around the filthy living room with cats running wild and said, "You really think you're fit to lock her in here? Want me to call Child Protective Services right now?" The room fell silent. The girl, heart pounding, rushed upstairs, grabbed her bag, and left with the woman. For the first time in years, she felt seen. At that party, surrounded by balloons and laughter, she realized how different life could be.
This wasn't discipline. This was control. Parents who treat children as trophies don't care about growth. They care about appearances. A B is still above average, but in her home, it was treated like a crime. Kids raised under this kind of pressure often develop perfectionism so severe it cripples them. They fear failure to the point that they stop trying new things. Instead of chasing curiosity, they chase approval. The deeper problem is that children like her begin to connect love with performance. They don't feel valued for who they are, only for what they achieve. That creates adults who overwork, who burn out, who feel worthless the moment they make a mistake. And ironically, instead of creating successful kids, these parents often raise adults who doubt themselves constantly. No child should grow up thinking one imperfect grade erases their entire worth.
When she was little, her dad promised the world. He told her he'd teach her to ride a bike, come to every school play, clap the loudest at every achievement. For a while, she believed him. But promises mean nothing when the person behind them is hollow. At 14, she waited for him to show up to her birthday. He never came. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Eventually he showed up, stayed half an hour, and left again. Every time he disappeared, she told herself maybe she was too loud, too sensitive, too much to handle. Maybe he didn't love her because she wasn't worth loving. The truth was uglier. He didn't leave because of her. He left because he wanted freedom. He wanted nights out, new relationships, and zero responsibility. Parenting was an inconvenience. Her mother was the only stable figure. She worked late shifts, made meals, tucked her in at night. But then, without warning, her mother died suddenly. At just 8 years old, the girl was left with no one. Relatives took turns housing her, but she felt like baggage. Meanwhile, her father wasn't there to comfort her. He was serving time in prison. When he finally got out, he promised again, "I'll change, I'll never leave you." For 2 years she dared to hope, she dared to believe. But old habits don't die. One day, he simply vanished again. No calls, no letters, nothing. It's been years since. She hasn't heard from him. And the silence screams louder than any insult ever could.
Abandonment destroys a child's sense of self. They start to believe they are unlovable. They start to think that if even their parent can't love them, then who will? The truth is, abandonment is not about the child, it's about the parent's weakness. But children don't know that. They carry the guilt into adulthood. Psychologists have found that children who are abandoned often develop attachment issues. Some cling desperately to relationships, terrified of being left again. Others avoid closeness altogether, convinced everyone will eventually walk away. The stress of abandonment doesn't just shape emotions, it can even affect the body, raising cortisol levels and making it harder to trust, harder to sleep, harder to feel safe. A parent walking away isn't just leaving the house, they're leaving scars in the brain and body that last for decades.
There was a girl named Jenna. Her routine was simple. Every night she peeked into her parents' room, whispered goodnight, and went to bed. It was her ritual, her way of feeling safe. One night she came home late from a friend's house. She saw her parents asleep under the blankets, so she skipped the whisper and tiptoed to her room. The next morning, she noticed something wrong. The house was silent, no smell of breakfast, no clinking dishes. Her parents were still in bed. That had never happened before. She walked closer. The covers didn't move. Her heart raced. She pulled the blankets back and froze. Their bodies were gone. Only their heads rested neatly on the pillows, eyes wide open. Her scream echoed through the house. She ran for the phone, hands trembling, and called the police. Officers stormed the house, weapons drawn. They searched every room, and then they opened the closet. Inside, crouched in the darkness, was a man chewing on what was left of her parents. Blood on his mouth, a grin across his face. He was arrested and dragged away, screaming nonsense. They sent him to an asylum. But Jenna never forgot the sight. She wished she had woken her parents the night before. She wished she could have changed the ending. But she couldn't.
This story spread online like wildfire. Is it true? Almost certainly not. But stories don't have to be real to terrify us. They speak to primal fears. The fear of losing the people who protect us. The fear of someone being in our home without us knowing. People retell stories like this because they're symbolic. The intruder in the closet represents the things we can't control: illness, death, sudden tragedy. Kids who grow up in unstable homes often latch onto horror stories because they mirror the chaos they already know. In a way, the story about Jenna isn't about a monster at all. It's about the terror of realizing safety is an illusion. And that's why it sticks in your mind long after you hear it. Now let's break it down. Sometimes it's not obvious your parents are toxic until you look at the patterns. Here are 7 signs that you might have grown up with parents who hurt you more than they helped. 1. They act like 2 different people, kind and polite in public, but cruel and explosive at home. This creates confusion. You never know which version you'll get, and you start doubting your own memory. 2. They have zero emotional awareness. If you cry, they ignore it, mock you, or tell you to stop. Instead of comfort, you get shame. Over time, you learn to bury emotions instead of expressing them. 3. They can't handle you succeeding. They see your achievements as threats instead of reasons to be proud. Instead of celebrating, they pick apart flaws, leaving you afraid to shine. 4. They twist reality until everything is your fault, even when you know it isn't. Gaslighting like this makes you question your own judgment. 5. They never admit they're wrong. Control matters more than truth. This teaches you that logic and fairness don't matter, only power. 6. They make everything about themselves. Your needs always come last. As a kid, you learn your feelings are unimportant. As an adult, you struggle to set boundaries. 7. They don't see you as an individual. You exist only to make them look good. Your choices, hobbies, and personality are ignored if they don't match the image they want. If 4 or more of these sound familiar, you're not overreacting. You've been living with toxic parents. And here's the truth: you can't fix them. The only thing you can do is protect yourself, learn your own worth, and break the cycle when it's your turn to raise a child. So what do you think? Do these stories sound like your life? Did you recognize any of those 7 signs in your own family? Drop your experiences in the comments, I'll be reading them. And remember this: a bad parent doesn't mean a bad child. Their failures are not your failures. If you've survived parents like these, you're already stronger than you realize. Thanks for watching. And if you want more disturbing true stories every single week, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.